Hi everyone, Josh here from the Income Replacement Project, and in today's video I want to talk about Q4, the fourth final quarter of the year that everybody is talking about right now. I've had lots of questions and things being asked about how to prepare for it, any tips and strategies specifically for the fourth quarter of the year and how you guys can profit from it. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video, crushing Q4 2020 as an an Amazon retail and online arbitrage seller, what it's like, some top tips, and how you guys can profit from it. So for those of you who are just entering your first Q4, let's just get started with a few bits and pieces that you'll need to know. For those of you that don't, the fourth quarter is the final, Q4 is the fourth quarter of the year, the last 3 months, October, November, and December. And you'll hear it if you spend any time in Facebook groups or communities and things like that where there are other Amazon sellers. You'll hear people talking about it all the time, like all year round. It's a discussion that happens all year round. Everyone's anticipating it, looking forward to it, and for good reason, because things really get crazy. And it is the lead up to the biggest consumer holiday that there is, obviously Christmas, right? People go nuts at Christmas. I remember I used to, for those that don't know, my family used to run a caravan and motorhome dealership, and back in 2008, 2009, when we had the recession, like we expected, like it was game over. We thought that was it, finished. But then very quickly, we realized that people actually, even during a recession, when money's tight and they're not spending on everything else, there's two things that people still spend their money on, even when they're broke, and that's holidays and Christmas. And I've seen this year upon year. We, as a company, the Caravan and Motorhome dealership, we had our best year on history. Literally, we'd always have around 100 caravans and motorhomes in stock. Well, during 2008, we had 3 left. That was our stock holding. There was rumours that we were shutting down. It's like quite the opposite. At least at that time, we couldn't get enough stock. So that just goes to show that, you know, even when times are bad, and I know the media are like trying to tear stuff up right now and talk about this recession that we've officially fell into, but like, guys, don't buy into all of that media crap. Yes, we might have officially, as far as the numbers are concerned, fallen into a recession, or the beginnings of a recession. However, you've only got to look at everything else that's happening right now. Amazon is still booming. The property market is going insane right now. I'm seeing like house prices get like 10% up on what they were at the beginning of coronavirus. It's insane. Obviously, that's not necessarily in all areas, but the market and many other markets are still booming right now. People still want to be entertained. People still want to buy gifts to their friends and family. They want to show their loved ones that they care for them, and gift giving is the way that that's done. So Christmas, I am anticipating a record Q4 this year, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Now, during the last 3 months of the year, you should expect to typically sell as much during this period as you will have done in the previous 9 months. Obviously, that depends on how long you've been going, what your stock levels are like, and how well you manage it. But that's kind of like, you know, what you should expect. So that's pretty exciting concept, and you can see why there is so much hype about it throughout the year. Now, it doesn't just hit October 1st and then all of a sudden sales go through the roof. That's not how it works. How it works is like the beginning of October, things start to, you won't necessarily realize it right away, but things slowly start to creep up. And then it's not until Black Friday when things really do go insane in a good way. And that's because, well, at least I think it's because everybody holds off. Consumers have now been trained over the past sort of 4 or 5 years, as we've adopted this whole Black Friday, Cyber Monday thing from the USA, because it wasn't previously a thing here. We've adopted it, and now consumers are trained to wait until the best deals are available at that time. Any of those of you who are like savvy shoppers will know that many of the deals that get shared during Black Friday, Cyber Monday are just rehash deals from earlier in the year, and it's an opportunity for retailers to clear out their old dead stock. However, there are some good deals to be had as well as a retail and online arbitrage seller. So I kind of set those days aside, and I'm buying up all the good deals from the big retailers like the supermarkets and Game and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, things really kick off after Black Friday. So if you're not prepared by then yeah, you're going to miss the boat. So make sure you are. So essentially, it's the time when all of your hard work throughout the year that you've done, everything that you've put into it so far, it's all going to pay off because things do go crazy. So all the stock that you've been building up over the year, and I know IPI, the Inventory Performance Index score, has caused a lot of reason for panic and concern inside of the community, the online and retail arbitrage community. But I don't feel that it's going to be quite as bad as we think. Most of what I'm seeing right now is unlimited storage capacity getting lowered to about 200 cubic feet, which if you're managing your inventory well, you should be able to manage with that. So if you do get restrictions for Q4, don't panic. It's not game over. You're just going to have to be a little bit smarter about how you manage your inventory. Send stuff in that's going to sell quickly and things like that. But anyway, that's another topic for another day. And like I said earlier on, I am predicting a record Q4. So screw the recession, screw coronavirus, screw all of that stuff, because as far as I'm concerned, the foundations have already been set. If you've been selling on Amazon since like April, March, you'll know that March was just bonkers. We've never seen a March quite like it. I did more in sales in March than I did in December the year before, which is unheard of. And what I think it's done is, again, it's trained consumers. There's a whole batch of consumers that before coronavirus had never bought anything online. Those people have been forced to step outside of their comfort zones, because a lot of people have, would you believe, there are a lot of people still out there who fear putting their card details in on a website, even if it's a website that everyone's heard of, because they've heard all the horror stories of their cards getting cloned and all that kind of stuff. Obviously that is a very real thing that can happen, but as you probably know, the odds of it are pretty low, and if it's going to happen, it's going to happen anyway. So anyway, a lot of the people who previously had those issues with shopping online have stepped outside of their comfort zone. They're now realizing that shopping online is so much easier to do than going to the shops, paying for parking, all that kind of stuff. So they are now more inclined to shop online, and I think that's going to have a huge impact on our sales in that last quarter of the year. So I'm super excited for what's to come, and I think you guys should be as well. So yeah, it's Q4 in a nutshell. It's kind of like a Christmas that even the Grinch will get excited for. So, and once upon a time, I was a bit of a Grinch. Didn't look forward to Christmas. Didn't really like it. Didn't really think too much about it. But then I got selling on Amazon. Now it's the greatest time of the year. And again, I'm sure you guys, if there are any Grinches among you watching this, you're going to feel the same way. Now, there are some pitfalls that a lot of people fall into, especially first-time Q4 revelers. So if you are first-time Q4 seller, then listen up, because these are going to be some important pitfalls that you would be wise to avoid, or at least take on board and consider. I've made all of these mistakes myself over the years, and I've seen many other people do it as well, so they are worth paying attention to. One of the biggest problems that I see people making, or mistakes I see people making, is going all in on one or a handful of products. So that's taking all your available cash flow and thinking, like, I've got another point and a few points here, but they kind of merge together. But if you are predicting that a particular product is going to be the hot toy, or you've got some heads up on the fact that it's going to be the hot toy or whatever, I've seen it happen before. People go all in and they will register, so they will just buy a ton of this one thing. And then, yeah, maybe it takes off a little bit, but then what normally happens with the hot toy, and I'm sorry to break it to you guys, but Amazon don't like every man and his dog selling the hot toy, because unfortunately it attracts a lot of fraud, and they have no time for fraud. So what they'll do is they will say that only the biggest, most trusted sellers, and like, that's none of us, by the way. That's like massive retail stores, retail names, brands that you would know of, or their list of authorized distributors or resellers, which again, as online and retail arbitrage sellers, we do not qualify, so don't even bother with those types of things. So like, for example, the Frozen movie came out. When the Frozen movie first came out, Frozen stuff went crazy at Christmas. It was like the hot toys to have. All little girls wanted Frozen toys, and little boys. They wanted Frozen toys for Christmas, and Amazon said, you know what, there's too many people trying to sell Frozen stuff, too many like counterfeit products on here, so we're just going to gate Frozen, take no applications, and everything else kind of went through the back. So anyone who'd invested in Frozen stuff to sell got in a lot of trouble and got a lot of stock stuck around. So again, the biggest thing that really changes during Q4 is the volume of what you do, not the volume of what you buy necessarily, or the volume of individual products. You just need to turn the knobs up on everything that you're doing and do more of it. So I would still, like, my strategies that I teach are to spread your inventory about, spread your cash about over a vast amount of different inventory so that you haven't got all your eggs in one basket, because again, the same thing is going to happen in Q4 as they do throughout the rest of the year. So don't go all in on a handful or on one single product. Again, I see a lot of people being far too aggressive on their pricing and participating in what we call the race to the bottom. Now, this is where you have a product that might be particularly saturated, at least at the moment in time that you're considering repricing it, and you end up just battling with 1, 2, 3, or a few other sellers to to be the most competitive and get your sales and all that kind of thing. I personally sit out of that. I let everybody who has no interest in actually making any money and they just want to shift stock, I just let them battle it out. And then I'll come in after they're all gone and they've, like, businesses have collapsed because they're not making any profit, and I will make the profit that I expected to. And you'll see a huge amount of it, especially in October. What happens is, again, the green people, the newbies, people who haven't got the right advice and they haven't been through this enough, they'll get into October and they'll think, where are all these sales that are supposed to come in? And they'll start then dropping their prices and things like that. That's a good thing. We want those people out of the market. We want those people to be, reducing their prices, clearing out their inventory, so that it leaves the people who are serious about, making some money and making a real shot of Q4 and profiting from it as best we possibly can from doing just that. And that's by having those hobby sellers out of the way. Down with the hobby sellers. Next pitfall. We already talked about attempting to predict what the hot toy is going to be. I would avoid doing this at all costs. I've done it before myself, and I fell into the trap of being left with a load of stock that I couldn't sell. Had to shift it on eBay or in Facebook groups, and got a lot of shit for it in the Facebook groups because people don't like you selling products over their retail price. But whatever your position on that, we all have different opinions and things. But that's what ended up having to happen with those products, and that's generally what happens with hot toys. Like, they sell for double, triple, quadruple, or if not more than their retail price. It happens every year with a certain toy. It's usually a toy. So I would say, unless you have evidence later on that those products are not going to become gated by Amazon, more often than not do, then maybe have a crack at it. But I think it's a game that you can make a lot of money. You can make a lot of money with, but it's more risky than looking at the other strategies that you could make money with during Q4. Another pitfall that I see people making is not leveraging OPM, what we call OPM, which is other people's money. I've got a slide on that in just a few slides' time, so we won't cover it in too much detail right now, but it's something that you should consider doing for sure. Another pitfall is that people aren't prepared. So now is the time to be getting ungated for those categories, subcategories, brands and things like that you want to be able to sell inside of the fourth quarter. If I'm going to recommend anything, if you're not already ungated in toys, grocery and beauty products, I would recommend doing that as soon as you possibly can, because those are going to be the types of products that are selling well. Also, any particular brands within those categories that you think, again, would be worth doing are certainly worth getting ungated for as well. So, but it's not just gating. There are other ways that you need to make sure you're prepared, like having enough boxes on hand, enough tape, enough bubble wrap, whatever you're using, not bubble wrap, but packing paper and all that kind of stuff. Make sure you've got plenty on hand, because the last thing you want to do is be left with a bunch of inventory shipment that's ready to go, but you've run out of labels, or you've run out of boxes, or you've run out of something, and you have to wait a week to get your inventory off, because it's going to be the difference between clearing that inventory or being left with it in January. Nobody wants to be left with a load of stuff in January. So make sure you are prepared. Make sure you have enough stuff. And Q4 pitfall, next point, is it's not all about toys. Now, I primarily sell toys because it's what I've always sold, so much of Q4 for me is about toys, but it's a trap to fall into, to think that it is just all about toys. There is more to Q4 than just toys. Think anything that is giftable. If you've ever received something as a gift, or what are you buying other people for gifts, it's not all toys, because not everybody appreciates toys for Christmas. Your nieces and nephews, grandkids, children, whatever, the young children will appreciate the toys. The odd big kid will appreciate some toys, but there are some other types of gifts that are given out at Christmas time. So think about those types of products as well. And the other problem that people seem to fall into is not moving quick enough. They kind of get like caught up, and that's my next point. They overthink things. They're like trying to overanalyze stuff. They get caught up in all the little insignificant details that if you step back and think, does this really matter? Like, is it going to prevent me from doing what I need to do? The answer is yes. Then get moving. Like, don't hesitate. When you buy your stock, get it sent in. Don't mess about. There are going to be queues of inventory going into the fulfillment center, so you need to plan for that. And especially what with what we've got going on in 2020 with coronavirus, Amazon is still to this date, and we are what today is middle of August, and they still haven't been able to catch up on all of the new inbound products they've got going into the fulfillment centers after they closed off a lot of stuff from going in. So it's had a big impact on the backlog. So be prepared for that. Make sure you're aware of the fact that things could potentially take longer. They might not. They might be quick. But I'm going to tell you now that I have every Q4 things have been slow, and everybody's moaning about it in Facebook groups. But if you know about it ahead of time, you can plan for it. So that's the last pitfall to bear in mind. Okay, so let's talk about how to profit from Q4. And for me, it's all about leveraging various different things. So we already talked about OPM, other people's money. And there's a number of different ways you can leverage other people's money. And I always get someone that messages me and emails me and tells me how irresponsible I am for recommending these types of things. But the point is, if you want to grow your business and you can be smart with it, then this is a fantastic way to do it. So if you think I'm irresponsible for recommending it, no problem. You don't have to participate. But I do believe that this is a great way for you to be able to up your game, really make 2021 a fantastic year, because if you're reinvesting, which is another thing that I recommend you do during Q4, if you're reinvesting and using other people's money, you're making profit from other people's money, then you can start using the profit, pay off the money that you've borrowed, start using your profit to then grow from that point. You can build your inventory out, and you'll be starting 2021 in a really, really strong position. And that's essentially how you grow your business. But anyway, so way number one to use other people's money is a credit card. Credit cards, they're dangerous things if you are not if you're not smart with them. And some of us are more susceptible than others to the lure of having a credit card and loading it up with stuff that when we never end up paying it off, and then we pay huge interest rates and stuff like that. Believe me, I've been there, I've done that. Not too long back, I cleared a credit card between my wife and I of a significant sum, and yeah, learned my lesson from that. So, but if you're able to find a decent credit card deal where you have like 6 months free, interest free on purchases, 12 months interest free on purchases, that means that you're going to be able to use the credit card to fund your retail online arbitrage trade throughout the fourth quarter. Pay no interest on it. Clear the credit card, and you've basically operated on free money. There's not much better. It doesn't get much better than that. But obviously, if you're using credit cards, be sure that the products that you're using to purchase are not gambles. You want to leave your gambles to your own cash flow, keep the gambles to a minimum, and go more on the numbers on things that you know will work well. Next, loans. And I'm not necessarily talking like loan from the bank or anything like that. I'm thinking more loans from friends, family, or anything like that. But again, don't take loans from people if you can't be trusted to pay it back. But bank of mum and dad. I mean, I say mum and dad. Perhaps a lot of us don't have mum and dad in the picture, or we have someone else that's more likely to lend some money. I don't personally rely on bank of mum and dad for my business activities these days. In the early days of my early teens, absolutely, but it obviously depends on your current situation. But bank of mum and dad is always an option, or grandparents, or aunties and uncles, or brothers, cousins, anyone with a little bit of extra spare money, and perhaps you even incentivize them with a small percentage on their borrowed money. I don't know, up to you. Other ways to leverage money during Q4 is to get your cash liquid. So if you've got any like premium bonds or anything like that are, you might, I guess premium bonds is one of those things you might not want to cash in. I have premium bonds. I may or may not cash my premium bonds in. I'm not sure. You obviously have the potential to win a lot more money, but the average percentage is quite low, and you'd be better perhaps putting that into something like into a retail online arbitrage, at least for that short period of time. If you've got any junk around the house, like again, this is a big way that people often overlook to raise capital, like old furniture just sitting in the garage you've been meaning to do something with for ages, or whatever it might be. Get that stuff sold on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or something like that. Get it sold, get the cash in, because you can put that cash to good work over the fourth quarter. Next, get some help. Again, this is all under leverage, leveraging other people's time, other people's money, all that kind of stuff. Who can you rope in to get some help from? There is so much opportunity for this that people probably, afraid to ask, but you might be surprised by some people's willingness to help you, especially if they want to kind of learn the ropes as well. They might see how cool this is and think, I'm going to give this a go myself. So that's certainly a way to consider pitching it to somebody. Maybe you have a husband, wife, a spouse that's prepared to put in some hours and help you in the evenings and things like that, or a boyfriend or girlfriend. Children, but do proceed with caution on that route, depending on their age. I certainly wouldn't be roping my 4 and 6 year old or my newborn in to helping me with preparing my Q4 stock, because they want to keep everything. Perhaps you have a good friend who is, again, willing to put up some of their time, make a night of it with a pizza and pack up some boxes and what have you. I don't know. Next point on profiting from Q4 with leverage is outsourcing. There's a number of different ways you can outsource, a number of different things you can outsource. So number one is prep centers. Now, this is an important point I wanted to make, because it's something that I've been slowly experimenting with on the back of the IPI malarkey. So basically what I'm thinking here is there are prep centers that not only do preparation for FBA, but they'll also do fulfillment. So if you are a hard hitter, a high player, and you've got lots of stock, and you find yourself in a situation where you're limited on your storage capacity because of your IPI score, all is not lost. And like if you've got more stock than you want, than you can actually send into FBA, then you could utilize a prep center that also does fulfillment. So what happens in those circumstances is, if you're using the prep center prepping for FBA, essentially what happens is you order the products online, you get the products sent directly to the fulfillment centers, and they will, the prep centers, they like bag them, barcode them, bubble wrap them, whatever needs doing, and then they will send them to the fulfillment center on your behalf, so you don't actually have to physically touch them, which means that you could be sunning it up in Spain if you wanted to be, while someone else is doing the work for you. Obviously that does come at a cost. It is going to impact your margins, but that's what happens when you reach a point of scale. Margins go down, so it's all about the volume. So prep centers is one way forward. And again, if you are limited on your storage capacity, having a prep center that does fulfillment as well, where they will store, so it works just like FBA, except for you're not sending your products to Amazon, you're selling them to the fulfillment center, the third-party fulfillment center, and they will store and ship your goods. Obviously when they are sold as well. Now you will have to do your research on the various different prep centers and things like that, and costs and all those kinds of things, and take those into account. You may need to increase your minimum ROI or your minimum margin to accommodate those things, but it's all doable. Again, don't get caught in this trap of, oh, it's all game over, it's it, we're finished. Like, there's always a solution to a problem. Deal sheets, and yeah, I'm going to put in a shameless plug here. We have our own deal sheet service, oadealmachine.com. If you're not already a member, we will be doing what we can to focus our attentions on giftables and things like that, deals that we believe will be good for the Christmas period throughout Q4. So if you're not already signed up to that, go to oadealmachine.com and you can get yourself set up for it. Of course, there are other deal sheets and deal services and everything out there. We're not the only one, so whatever you feel works best for you. But it's certainly a way to help increase the volume of your sourcing abilities during that busy period, because you need to be focusing on getting stuff in and out the door as quickly as you possibly can. So if you can outsource deal sourcing, then that is another way you can do that. And the other way you could do that as well, I know quite a few people who run deal sheets and they have their own VAs, or all the VAs, however you want to run it, but you could hire virtual assistants to do some of those tasks for you. It might not always be sourcing, it might be inventory management, it might be customer support, if you've got lots of messages coming through, which you probably shouldn't have, but if you're doing significant volume, you might have a few that you don't want to deal with. Anyway, so those are some ways that you can profit from Q4 by leveraging other people's time, services, and things like that. And the last point I want to talk about is tools. Now, a lot of people throughout the year, especially those operating on a lower budget, will have, there's these tools that you could invest in, and the downside of tools is that they come with a cost. But the plus side of tools is that I personally believe a good tool will save you the equivalent in time, or more over and above the equivalent in time of what you spend to invest in it, which means you can spend your time on the revenue generating activities, or it will directly save you money. So I believe that if there's any time that you want to be focusing on getting your tool arsenal all set up, it is the fourth quarter of the year. So if you've been umming and ahhing over signing up for those tools and things like that, now is the time to consider grabbing some of those, or all of those, or whatever fits best with your business and the way you run things. So the first one, obviously Buybot Pro. If you're doing online arbitrage, you're sourcing your own products, Buybot Pro is a no-brainer because it's going to help you to analyze potential deals, spot any duds and things like that. So Buybot Pro, if you haven't already got it, go grab it. There's a link below this video. You can get yourself signed up on that. Profit Protector Pro is a good one, especially if you're running at Q4. I'll be running Profit Protector Pro throughout Q4 on the sort of cautious setting to make sure that I am getting the best possible ROI for my products, and that will save me having to be there and constantly looking at my prices and things like that, so I can focus on what's important. And again, as a lot of you guys already know, Profit Protector Pro it earns its money. Like, it doesn't cost you whatever it costs per month, it actually makes you money, so it's a good trade-off. It's a no-brainer. Once again, there's a link below this video if you want to get yourself signed up for Profit Protector Pro. Next, Accelerlist. Accelerlist is important. If you're not using a prep center, or even if you are using a prep center, I suppose it would still be handy to create shipments much faster. Now, as much as I love Amazon, I love all their tools and everything, their listing process is just not built for online and retail arbitrage sellers. It's not been built with us in mind, and it's very tedious when you get using it. So I would recommend having a look at Accelerlist. It comes with a 1-week trial. Click the link below this video to get your trial. And then I forget the exact cost of all these. They're about £20–30 a month, most of these tools. But I promise you, will be worth their weight in gold in terms of time save, opportunity costs, and all that kind of thing. So Accelerlist will help you speed up the listing process, hence the name Accelerlist. Very cleverly done. And you'll be able to get more products listed in a short space of time, which means, like I said, you can spend more time on the things that generate the revenue, pull the revenue in. The next thing that's important to know is your numbers. You don't want to be getting caught up with selling products for a loss during Q4. It's easy to get excited and caught up in the moment when you're repricing and things like that. So it's important to know your numbers. Plus, it's one of those things that inspires you and motivates you and keeps you going all the time, and you can see those numbers adding up and those profit figures coming through. So Seller Board, you can get an extended 2-month free trial. The standard is 1 month, but if you click the link below this video, you get a 2-month free trial, and they don't require any kind of credit or debit card for you to enter when you get signed up, which is really cool. So I think even if you are you're like, no, I'm not going to spend any money on any tools, if you get anything, Seller Board is well worth picking up, because you can get 2 months free without having to pay for it. And if you hate it by the end, no problem, you don't have to pay. So those are the tools that will help you to get some more leverage during that period of time. So let's talk about the products that are most likely to sell and that sell best during Q4. So the first one, obviously, toys. Toys, without doubt, every single year, without fail, is going to sell. Again, avoid the hot toys. Don't avoid hot toys, just the ones that are going to be like the biggest. Otherwise, you can go for it. There are the same sorts of toys that sell year upon year, and you can do a little bit of research if you like. Go back on Camel or Keeper and look at particular products and see how they spiked during Q4. Again, if you're using Buybot Pro, you can look back at the sales from last December and see what happened, see how they picked up, and again, plan your attack that way, looking at previous sales number. There's a lot we can learn from history. History repeats itself all the time, so that is one thing that's certainly worth doing. Grocery products, so we're talking about things like chocolates and what have you, anything that's giftable in that respect. often gets overlooked. Chocolate I tend to avoid throughout the year, because if you got chocolate in the fulfillment centres during summertime, especially with the weather we've been having lately, this summer in 2020, it's going to melt and it's just going to be a pile of goo by the time it gets to your customer, and that's a guaranteed return. Nobody wants that. So be thinking outside of the box with chocolates, no pun intended. But don't go for your standard kind of chocolates. Think probably like my wife is a vegan, and she eats a vegan chocolate, and vegan chocolate's not cheap, and it's quite hard to find in certain variations of the vegan chocolate are hard to find. So the vegan market is certainly on the up right now, and it's something that is growing in interest. So it's just one place to look. But you know what I'm saying, like those types of things. So not necessarily a mainstream box of celebrations, although they might well do well. But think a little bit more. Outside of the box with your groceries and your chocolates and things like that. Next, beauty. And beauty, we're talking about men's and women's grooming products, stuff like that. Again, the sort of thing that you get for Christmas. Stay away from, at least if you're doing FBA, you need to be aware of the hazmat products within the beauty category. So you've got things like perfumes in glass containers. Like perfume and aftershave is considered to be flammable, and hazmat more often than not. So if you're sending your own products, no problem. But if you're using FBA, not going to be quite so easy. So be aware of hazmat products. But beauty is a great category to operate in over Q4. And then think family activities. Now, some things that I sell like shed loads of during Q4 are used games consoles, particularly Nintendo Wiis and PlayStation 2s. The reason we sell loads of Nintendo Wiis is because maybe you've been at someone's at Christmas and you've all had a family game of golf or swimming or whatever it is on the Wii. It's one of those consoles that lends itself well to like family games and family activities on Christmas Day and over the Christmas period. So anything like that, like board games, are particularly popular over the Christmas period. Believe it or not, even in 2020, people still play board games. I personally love board games, and board games are really, really popular as family activities. So anything like that, anything you think, yeah, I could really see like a family doing, playing this or doing this together over the Christmas period, then that would be a product worth considering investing in. Yeah, so those are all my points about what's going to sell best during Q4. But basically, essentially anything giftable, right? Anything that you've ever received as a gift and been pleased to receive as a gift, or you've given to someone else, that has the potential to be a good product to sell in Q4. So nothing really changes essentially from what we've already been selling. So don't overthink it. There is a huge amount of opportunity out there, and looking back at previous historical sales data is really going to help you to identify those products that do pick up steam. One thing that I forgot to put on this list is sports equipment, like health and fitness equipment. Now, that doesn't necessarily sell as well in the lead up to Christmas, but certainly from Christmas Day through to the first week of January, that stuff goes nuts because everyone overeats, overindulges, and then the first thing they do is New Year's resolution, I'm going to lose a ton of weight in January. So a lot of those types of products will go really, really well as well then. So it's like a little bonus tip there for you guys. Now, the last point I want to make is don't be afraid to reinvest. Christmas time is the best time to be an Amazon seller, and I believe there is no better time to be getting started. If you're just getting started, you've not missed anything. You've missed a lot, but it's not too late. There's still huge amounts of opportunity there for you to profit from, and get started with your business. So my message to you is don't be afraid to reinvest. Throughout that period, take the money, put it back in, take the money, put it back in, take the money, put it back in, until you feel that you've reached the point where like you can stand back and marvel at what you've created and what you've done and what you've achieved over that period. And then perhaps you take yourself a little post-Christmas bonus. Who knows? Anyway, guys, I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching. And I did do a video last year on Q4 as well in 2019. I'll put a link to that video below here because I tried to keep this one a little bit different. We cover some of the same topics, but I'd certainly recommend watching that as well. But there's some new stuff in here and perhaps some new stuff in the other video as well. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you found it useful, give me a thumbs up. Leave any questions in the comments section. And otherwise, I will speak to you guys again real soon.